Alright, I figured I better record this. We're going to go ahead and put this little short block together. I got everything laid out. And we'll go ahead and finish up a few things that need to be done as far as putting the lifters in, getting our crank set in there, our cam put in, all that good stuff. And figured I would go ahead and turn the camera on, bring you guys along with us. CT's not here, so he might want to see this. I know some of you guys are tired of these videos, but just play along. Alright. The first thing we're going to do is put our lifters in here. I've already got the silicone on the case because that's painful for a lot of guys. And I've thought about changing over to Holomar, but I just I don't know, I'm having a hard time making the adjustment. I have really good luck with the silicone. The ultra gray. Every once in a while I'll get a leaker. I've got that Type 4 motor. It's not as dry as I would like it to be. Mainly the push rod tubes, which I can work on. I don't know if it's the seal issue or I used some aviation Permatex there, and it seems to be very sensitive to heat. If it gets thin, the new stuff, when it gets hot, it wants to just run away from the part that it's on. So just a little observation. So we're going to use the webcam lifter lube that was provided in the cam kit. There's lots of different brands of this stuff. I try to use what the manufacturer sends. Scat uses the driven Joe Gibbs stuff, which is pretty good. Never had a cam issue, unless it's a double spring application, and then it's pretty much a wear item. The camshaft is. Anytime you increase the spring pressure on a lifter and lobe, you probably have failure sooner or later. So I try to do everything with a single spring, but you can only create so much seat pressure with a single spring, so there are limits. A little bit of oil, one for the other half of the case over here now. We've already pre-assembled this a couple times, so should go pretty smooth, or it may not. I know CT got some of the assembly process, the balancing of the pistons and ring gapping, all that stuff that goes on before the actual assembly. Like I said, we're waiting on some spacers for the cylinders, so I'm going to go ahead and get the short block built. Go in the hospital on the 27th, so I don't know what will happen after that. Alright, got a rag over here, get a new rag. Put our lifter clips in, some of those. Couple of these bad boys, you can get these on the interwebs, or you can make them out of coat hangers. Most of you guys, if you're building a Volkswagen motor nowadays, you are not using coat hangers to hold your lifters in, because this is the least of the things you're going to have to spend money on. So might as well buy a few of the tools you need to work on these things, because that's going to be sort of the cheap part nowadays. Having the right tool always makes stuff nice. Same process. If you can't see it in the camera, I really apologize. I'm not a camera guy, production dude. But I'm just applying this spray can lube to the lifter face. On the other case half over here. And I don't put this on the sides of the lifters, just a little bit of oil there, and I don't put this on the journals and the bearing areas. You want to just apply this to the lifter and the lobe area for your best results. Alright, make sure you get all that off the hands. And the little web containers are very hard to squeeze. Note to self. I am going to use a little bit of this anaerobic sealer. On these O-rings here. Like I said, I've noticed the Permatex not holding up to the heat lately. I don't know if they changed it or what's going on with that, but rather than have an issue, I'm going to make a product change. Same brand, just different product. Also, if you're noticing, there's only 4 O-rings in this aluminum case. This is a stock replacement case, however, it is shuffle pinned in the center main bearing, which does not allow you to incorporate the O-rings. So if you have a shuffle pin case, don't try to put O-rings wherever the shuffle pins are at. You can take a little sealer and wipe around the outside of the dowel pin. And that's about the best you can do if it's shuffle pinned. Which they come that way whether you ask for it or not now, so. Alrighty. Get that stuff on you, man. It's nasty. Alright, we got our lifters in place. We got our O-rings all sealed up. We got our, one thing that other to note on this case was I like to put the cam bearing in open side out. And you're not allowed to do that on these cases, it won't let you. So you have to put it the way the factory intended it to be. And there's no other option. If you turn it around it overlaps the cam bearing. So let's go ahead and drop the crank in next. We'll set that over here. Do a little bit of Earl for our rear main. I'm going to walk in front of the camera one more time. Sorry about that. Crankshaft has been pre-assembled. You use assembly lube on this. I really don't like assembly lube because of this. You know, you don't get this zing, you get that, you know, they fall, they're smooth, but they're draggy. And you really have to feel very carefully to make sure you don't have any tight spots or anything like that. And yeah, so that's that for that. We'll put a little oil right here. We got our rear main bearing here. We got our mark on it. The dowel pin always goes towards the flywheel. We did have to notch these bearings to line up with the oil holes. Covered a lot of that over on CT's channel, so you'll have to check that over there. I don't know when he'll put that video out, but yeah. So anyway, see what happens here. That one. There's that one. Pretty sure that one fell in. We'll get our bearing. We'll set it in here and make sure we don't have any rocky. And that'll let us know that our crank is sitting flat in the bearings in this case. That means it's not sitting flat. So let's make sure we got all our bearings in place here. Okay. Now we'll reinsert the bearing and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can see how the bearing doesn't rock anymore. Not even a little bit. It's completely flat. So if you don't have your dowel pins lined up, or if it's not sitting flat in the saddle and the bearings, however you want to call it, you always want to do this rocky test. And if the bearing rocks, stop, recheck everything, and don't be satisfied until this bearing has no movement when you set it over the main journal. Now we can put this bearing in the other half of the case. Okay, we have our bearing installed. We'll go everything. We're going to put our cam in next. Our keyway here. I'm going to get my rods and my silicone. Alrighty, we'll find our timing marks. And, because I'm blind, I should know exactly where they're at, but you know, why lie to you guys? There we go. So I'm going to put a little red dots on these. I should have marked these previous, but you know. I did mark the camshafts that were good there. So there we go. I'm going to put a little oil on our cam bearings. I'll go ahead and put a little bit on the main bearing one right there. A bit on the rods. Give everybody a little bit of Earl. All right. Okay, we got good crank float. Our lines are lined up. Our cam in there. Got our lube on our cam. Gonna put a little lube on that little cam gear there. the point now where we're going to grab the other case half and drop it over this one. And make a motor, engine, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. And put a little lube on top of these cam lobes because they're hard to get the bearings covered on the other side of the case. Alright, let's see what happens here. Cam plug lined up, everything looks pretty decent. Go ahead and start with our main. I'm going to use a little bit of silicone on these. I just put a little bit on the bottom of the washer. Flat side of the washer down, if you want. You can put it the other way. I like to do it that way. Every washer usually has a ground side and a round side, unless it's a spring washer, of course. Alrighty, on to the nuts. Find Mr. CT's pulley here. It's got to be here somewhere. Leaves mine. We'll use the one that Mr. Matt gave me for assembly. I really like it for that. It's extra large, so you can read it if you're blind and old. Snug these down. Crisscross pattern. Make sure nobody's fingers are in there before you start tightening. Make sure your crank moves back and forth. Yeah, trouble with this one doing that. So it moves back and forth. That's a good thing. You gotta have crank float. Alrighty. Alrighty, and that's pretty much our short block. We'll put the oil pump in there. The rest of our hardware can go on as far as the 8mm stuff. But I probably won't bore you with all this because it makes the videos way too long. So until the next time, we'll get caught back up on the 1600 build. Hopefully it'll be running. My shims will come in and we can do the top end.